As we approach 4 o'clock on this Tuesday afternoon, the city of Aurora has named a second interim police chief.
Finding a replacement for Fire Chief Vanessa Wilson has been a challenge, to say the least. Efforts to find a full-time replacement fell flat when a few candidates dropped out. Now they're looking to Art Acevedo for help. Acevedo was most recently with the Miami Police Department. The city fired him after 6 months on the job. He is now suing city leaders there. He accused city commissioners of using the police department to investigate political enemies. He also says they interfered with police reform efforts. Acevedo gained national attention during Hurricane Harvey in 2017 when he was in Houston. The transition between current interim police chief Daniel Oates and Acevedo should take place sometime next month. They expect to learn more about the transition, and we do tonight when the Aurora City manager Acevedo and Oates speak to reporters.
There are some very important new developments in the Russian war against Ukraine, with Polish media reporting that 2 people in Poland died following an explosion at a farm there just across the border from Ukraine.
There are reports that rockets or missiles hit that area. We don't know who fired those rockets or missiles yet. It could mark a key escalation in the war. Poland's Security Council is meeting to figure out what to do next and how to respond. The U.S. State Department and the Pentagon say they're working with Poland to confirm what happened.
First, let me go ahead and highlight up front that we are aware of the press reports alleging that 2 Russian missiles have struck a location inside Poland near the Ukraine border. I can tell you that we don't have any information at this time to corroborate those reports and are looking into this further. And so when we do have an update to provide, we'll be sure to do so.
If confirmed, this would mark the first time in that war that Russian weapons have landed in a NATO country. Russia pushed back against allegations they were responsible, but Russian forces launched an intense wave of airstrikes on cities in Ukraine. Today, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said that Russian airstrikes targeted Ukraine's power facilities, which led to widespread blackouts.
The family of a grandmother who was shot and killed on her front porch in Englewood want you to know her story. Police say Darlene Grass was ambushed by her neighbor across the street. It happened earlier this fall. Her daughter says Darlene's laugh was contagious and she'd laugh so hard that she'd cry. Family and friends meant the world to her, but now all the headlines online are about how she died.
And I want people to continue to share her memories and not just remember this awful, horrible night that took her from us, but remember everything that she left.
Police in Englewood have arrested Kwok Nguyen minutes after the shooting. They say he was running down the street in a tactical vest. His family told investigators they didn't know that he had guns or why he might have ambushed Darlene Grass. Nguyen is now due in court on Monday. Well, this morning in the metro area, commuters had a messy drive to get through the metro area after the snow dumped overnight, piling up on the roads, eventually leading to some streets icing over. So as we take a live look now outside the 9 News studios, you can see the sunshine and the blue skies are back, and some of that melting has taken place. Still a very cold day outside today.
Yeah, we want to get to Kathy because we know the cold is sticking around at least a couple more days or more.
Yeah, it's going to be a little bit deceiving, you guys, because tomorrow will be fairly mild and you'll think, oh, we're breaking out of it.
We're out of it.
Right? No, the coldest air of the season is set to come in on Thursday and Friday, and more snow than we saw early this morning. Overnight snow showers did make for a tough commute. Tonight, things seem to be a bit improved. We're seeing a decent drive times on the main arteries around the city. And as we look at our other live on camera off toward the west, it's really pretty out there tonight, but a very cold day. Temperatures in the teens and 20s. DIA picking up 1.9 inches of snow, bringing us to 6.4 inches for the month of November. And that's just an inch shy of the average for the entire month. So we're doing very well. In the high country, ski resorts rejoicing with some help from Mother Nature. Temperatures very cold today. 36 in Denver, 38 for Greeley, 38 in Pueblo. We should be in the low to mid 50s. The cold air continues coming in from Canada and points beyond that, and another surge of cold Arctic air is set to plunge southward on Thursday. Diminishing snow showers on the northwest flow out across the eastern plains. Not expecting additional accumulation there, but upstream is another weather system, and that is one that definitely will bring a couple more inches of snow to Denver before the week is over. Mid-30s now, dropping into the 20s after sunset. Coming up, we're going to talk about how low the numbers will go tonight. We've got a cool and dry Wednesday ahead ahead of the Arctic surge and another round of snow. More light accumulation expected, you guys, from many areas.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, it's fun to shovel.
Interesting to see. The dogs were surprised.
They were excited.
Everyone reacted. Let's just say that.
Well, it was a good practice for what's coming Thursday.
All right. Thanks, Kathy.
Here's a look at a few of the pictures you sent us after the snowfall this morning. Debbie sent us this from Montrose, a nice coating of snow near her house. Ken shared a snow-covered deck from his place in Longmont. After the sun came out, pretty much most of it melted off by now, but saw more than a few neighbors out there shoveling away, saying, this is soon.
Not necessarily shoveling as much as shoving.
Shoving, more shoving. That's exactly.
A lot of sweeping and pushing.
Yes, which also means the drive home today, thankfully, because of the sun, made a world of difference. It shouldn't be too bad.
Well, even with the snow this morning, the National Weather Service never did issue a winter weather advisory. Here's meteorologist Corey Reppenhagen to explain why.
The second snow of the season in Denver iced the roadways, causing headaches for metro area drivers on Tuesday morning. But the storm's forecast didn't quite meet the criteria for the National Weather Service to issue an alert.
Well, as you know, it does snow a lot in Colorado, and so we would be concerned about warning or advisory fatigue.
Meteorologist Paul Schlatter says it's kind of like the boy who cried wolf. You want to make sure there's a wolf before you alert the town. He says the forecast for Tuesday morning just didn't look like a wolf.
And in hindsight, this morning's event, I mean, it had impacts that were worthy of an advisory. Just by the time those impacts occurred, it was a little late to issue one.
He says they issue an alert called a winter weather advisory if there's 3 to 5 inches of snow in the forecast for the urban corridor between Fort Collins and Denver, or for the eastern plains. And they issue a winter storm warning if there's 6 inches or more in the forecast. But he says the National Weather Service is trying to get away from relying on those specific thresholds as much, and instead lean more towards the possible impacts to roads, because the timing of this storm and the temperatures of the road were more important than the overall snow totals.
So future events like that, we should issue an advisory, just expecting those types of impacts to travel. But we're definitely looking at ways to improve that for future events like we had this morning.
Meteorologist Corey Reppenhagen, 9 News.
And as Kathy was saying, that next system due in on Thursday afternoon, which could impact the evening commute. The National Weather Service again saying it likely will be issuing an advisory then, even if it looks like there might be less than 3 inches of snow. Well, the chances of a railroad strike are going back up, and that could have a big impact on our supply chain once again.
Members of the International Brotherhood of Boilermakers voted against an agreement reached in September. The union said it's still negotiating with railroad management. The union represents about 300 workers. It is the smallest of 13 unions, representing more than 100,000 members of the major U.S. freight railroads. If any of those unions strike, the other unions would honor the picket lines, and that could happen early next month. They would also shut down a vital link in the nation's supply chain. Congress could prevent or end a strike by extending a cooling off period during which the unions cannot strike, or by imposing a contract on union members. Senator Raphael Warnock is suing Georgia for an extra day of advance voting. Georgia's Secretary of State has warned counties not to allow voting the Saturday after Thanksgiving. That's due to a state law that forbids early voting on Saturdays, which follow state holidays on the previous Thursday or Friday. The Saturday in question comes after both Thanksgiving and a state holiday that commemorates Confederate General Robert E. Lee's birthday on Friday. The state's Democratic Party joined the lawsuit. They claim the law only applies to primaries and general elections, not to runoffs. Warnock is facing Republican Herschel Walker in a runoff. Both failed to get 50% of the vote last week. You probably know our 9 Cares Colorado Shares food drive just kicked off. We partner with King Soopers and the Food Bank of the Rockies to raise money to help families who are struggling to put food on the table. Yeah, that's 1 in 10 families that face times when there isn't enough money to buy food. Today, 9 News anchor Corey Rose is talking about a time in her life when her family needed help.
So many memories here.
We had just moved to this community. 6 months into the job, they go bankrupt and I have no job. Well, your brother I know was in kindergarten, so I would say you were 8. I mean, I was aware of the Grace Resource Center, which was a ministry next to the railroad tracks. I think I called and they said, oh, you know, every Friday or whatever day it was, once a week we hand out bags of food, and I thought, they got to do it. And dragged you with me, and we heard a sermon. We stood in line. When you have children, you get a little bit more non-perishable food. It always consists of Cheerios and pasta and a can of beans and tuna. We were walking out to the car, and this guy was running after us. And he's like, miss, I want to give you my box of cereal. He's like, you have a family. And I go, yeah, but okay, I'm walking to a car. I'm driving to a house. Yeah. He didn't look like he had either. Yeah. And he was so sweet. Talk about generous.
Yeah. I don't really remember a lot from that time, but I do remember that day.
Oh, I know.
How could you forget, right?
Right.
And to flip this on the other side, to come out of this with a happy story, I remember you bought Honey Nut Cheerios, because this was a box of regular Cheerios.
Oh, we've arrived.
And yeah, I was like, we have made it.
Yeah, it was not easy. Why, after all these years, I still get tearful, I have no idea. But I'm not ashamed of that time, because I think it put us in a spot of being empathetic and compassionate toward others.
I love you, Mommy.
I love you too.
It's a happy story.
They shared that, and there is no shame.
No,
No
a
shame at
hard
all.
story when you live it, and a happy story when you get to tell it later for many people.
And Corey's family only needed help briefly, but that's the case for so many families. We hear that every single year, people, and it is that monumental moment for them in their lives, because then they choose to give back so often, because people fall on hard times and then they get back on their feet, and they never forget those that were there to help them up, give them a hand. And
this often happens during times when economics get tough, and that's some of what a lot of people are going through right now. And that's where you can come in. You can donate to our 9 Cares Colorado Shares Holiday Drive. You can scan the QR code right there on your screen to give now. You can also donate when you shop at your local King Soopers, or join us for our 9 Cares Colorado Shares Telethon that's coming up on Thursday. I want to let you know that in the first 3 days, we've raised over $105,000 thanks to your generosity, and all of that money is going to help local food banks around Colorado feed those in need this holiday season. Again, there's more information at 9news.com/9cares. A man with nothing but a CPR class under his belt had to jump in after an airplane crash.
We're looking back 35 years to November 1987, when a Continental Airlines plane crashed at Stapleton Airport. And we have our own medical expert in studio today discussing new findings about a study regarding smoking marijuana.
A family's uninvited guest does more than just crash a party. It's a major damage amid the havoc inside of a home.